Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Let me paint you a picture of my life. I'm Ethan, almost 47, and my better half Laura is 46. Our teenagers caught up in that whirlwind of high school life. You know how it is, always out with activities and friends, making our nest feel a bit emptier these days. I've been climbing the corporate ladder at the same mid-sized company for what feels like forever, nearly 25 years now, working my way up to management. My love story with Laura? Classic workplace romance. A colleague played matchmaker back when we were fresh-faced young professionals. Man, those early days were something else. The chemistry was instant, electric even. Time would just vanish into thin air whenever we were together. We'd spend every weekend together, talking for hours on the phone each night, getting to know each other's souls. That head-over-heels romance naturally bloomed into marriage. Fast forward 2 decades, and here we are. Even after riding the parenting roller coaster and juggling all of life's responsibilities, Laura and I still have a solid thing going. But I've got to keep it real. That initial fire has definitely cooled down over the years. Between hustling at our jobs and pouring everything into our kids' future, that magical spark between us has dimmed. Sure, we still share intimate moments, but that heart-racing excitement we used to get just looking at each other, that's ancient history. These days, it feels more like checking a box, and even that's becoming a rare occurrence. We've fallen into this pattern of telling ourselves, hey, this is normal, and this is just what happens when you've been married this long. Then life threw me a curveball I never saw coming. Enter Jared, my 30-year-old colleague who's been like a kid brother to me since he joined our department. Despite the age gap, we've always clicked, sharing laughs and real talk even during company happy hours. So when this usually steady as a rock guy dropped the bombshell that he was getting hitched, I was floored. His fiancée, Emily? A fresh-faced 21-year-old who could practically still be in college. Talk about a plot twist, Jared, Mr. Serious himself, landing such a young stunner. He'd never breathed a word about dating, so this came totally out of left field. They kept the wedding super low-key, no office folks invited, which I chalked up to young people these days and their minimal vibes. But a few months into their marriage, something was clearly eating at Jared. He'd zone out during meetings, sighing like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. When he'd drop hints like, man, marriage is tougher than I thought, I'd try to lighten the mood with a honeymoon phase over already. Never in a million years did I expect the bombshell he was about to drop. One night after work, we hit up this bar near the office. Jared was nursing his beer, looking like he was carrying the world's heaviest secret. After what felt like forever, he finally opened up. Ethan, he started, his voice barely above a whisper. The way he was acting had me worried sick. What's eating you? I asked. He took a deep breath and dropped a complete shock. So, about spicing up our marriages, what are your thoughts on couple swapping? I nearly choked on my drink. The alcohol must have been messing with my hearing. Did he seriously just suggest what I think he did? Come again? I managed to sputter out. Jared couldn't even look me in the eye as he continued, his voice shaking. You know, like, what if we switched partners for a bit? Me with Laura, you with Emily. At first, I thought he was pulling my leg, but one look at those dead serious eyes told me otherwise. I shut that down real quick. Are you out of your mind? That's completely insane. Trading your young wife and borrowing Laura? No way in hell. Jared's eyes started welling up, and he pleaded, you don't understand. Our marriage is on the rocks. Emily's so young, and I'm totally lost here. You and Laura have this amazing, mature relationship. Maybe some guidance from an experienced couple. Seeing things from a different angle, it could help us grow. I firmly stood my ground. Absolutely not happening. But something in his desperate expression made my resolve waver ever so slightly. Their marriage is already crumbling after 6 months? What's really going on here? His situation sparked something beyond mere curiosity, a dangerous kind of intrigue. Deciding to hear him out, I switched our beers for tequila shots and let him spill the whole story. Turns out Emily's this free spirit, full of life and energy, while Jared's more of a traditional guy who second-guesses himself. The honeymoon phase was great, but once real married life kicked in, their different approaches to life started causing friction. Emily craves more excitement in their relationship, and poor Jared's completely overwhelmed by her expectations. When I asked what possessed him to suggest something as wild as couple swapping, he mentioned some stuff he'd found online about couples finding new perspectives through temporary partners. Sure, it was probably just some random internet garbage, but he was clinging to it like a lifeline. All I could do was shake my head and mutter, "That's just not how the real world works." But Jared wouldn't let it go. "Look, you and your wife have this rock-solid relationship built on decades of trust. Don't you think bringing in some fresh energy from newlyweds like us could create something special?" I should have shut it down right then and there. Instead, my mind started wandering places it shouldn't. Emily, 21. My pulse quickened just thinking about her age. A woman barely out of college. I couldn't help but picture her youthful smile, flawless skin, and that endearing innocence that comes from limited life experience. She'd be worlds apart from Laura. Before I knew it, my mouth had gone dry. Laura and I had spent over 2 decades together. We could practically read each other's minds, which, if I'm being honest, sometimes made things feel routine. The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks for even entertaining these thoughts. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead. But man, just imagining being with Emily, her gentle touch, her sweet perfume, it sent waves of both shame and exhilaration through me. Then reality kicked in. How on earth would I even begin this conversation with Laura? Suggesting something this wild to my wife of 20-plus years seemed completely insane. The thought of hurting her or betraying her trust made my stomach turn. Yet somehow, that didn't completely kill my curiosity about Emily. Once that seed was planted, I couldn't get it out of my head. The words Emily and 21 kept floating around in my mind like a broken record. I was shocked at myself for getting so caught up in these inappropriate feelings. As we wrapped up at the bar, I tried to be firm. This kind of thing is completely off the table in any normal world. But Jared pushed back. "I hear you. Just meet Emily once, though. We can talk more after." I was floored, but found myself saying, "Let me sleep on it." Looking back, that hesitant response probably just encouraged Jared's wild idea. The next evening, I was tying myself in knots about how to broach this at home. Finally, over a glass of wine after dinner, I casually mentioned, "Sounds like Jared's having some marriage troubles, even though they just tied the knot." Laura looked up, intrigued. "Oh, what's going on?" I chose my words carefully. "Well, apparently having such a young wife is making their intimate life challenging." Laura chuckled and said, "Oh my, that kind of problem? Remember how we were at first? You were so eager, and I was such a shy thing." Reminiscing with a smile. I laughed along. "Yeah, we were pretty clueless back then." Laura swirled her wine and asked, "So what's Jared's game plan?" Finding myself in deep water, I dodged with, "Oh, he was just looking for some advice," and left it at that. A couple weekends later, Jared and his wife asked to come over for a proper introduction. The surprise invitation got Laura's approval. "It has been a while. Let's do dinner." When the doorbell rang that evening and I opened up, there stood Jared with an absolute knockout by his side. Emily. Her chestnut hair cascaded perfectly over her shoulders, and her slim figure looked elegant even in casual clothes. But it was her face that stopped me in my tracks, fresh and radiant like spring flowers in bloom. Those bright, innocent eyes took me right back to my first crush. Her skin was flawless and radiant, with just a hint of pink in her cheeks. Every movement she made was filled with that unmistakable energy of youth. I stood there frozen, drinking in the sight of her. My heart was racing, and my palms were suddenly clammy. It had been ages since anyone had affected me like this. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her mesmerizing presence. "Hi, I'm Emily, Jared's wife. Thanks so much for having us over." Emily's greeting came with a warm smile, her voice youthful and energetic like a college student's. For a split second, I let myself think she could be mine, before quickly pushing that thought away. Laura welcomed them too, saying, "Oh my, what a lovely wife you have." "I'm Laura. Nice to meet you," with a genuine smile. We showed them into the living room to get the evening started. The four of us raised our glasses in a toast over dinner. As conversation flowed, Emily shared how she and Jared met through mutual friends. They hit it off immediately and started dating, and before they knew it, they were talking marriage. They tied the knot pretty quickly after that. I thought to myself, well, it might not be typical these days, but when you're in love, sometimes you just know. As the night went on and the drinks kept flowing, Laura and Emily were deep in girl talk when I noticed Jared getting antsy. I worried to myself, he's not seriously going to bring up wife swapping here, is he? But sure enough, when he saw his chance, Jared jumped in. "Hey Ethan, actually, we've been having some concerns about our intimate life. We see long-term couples like you guys, and we wonder how you keep that spark alive." Laura seemed caught off guard but answered diplomatically, "Oh, well, we don't really do anything special, just try to be good to each other." Jared pressed on, "I get that being considerate is key, but I'm not sure exactly how to show it." He shot me a look. "Just as I was thinking, don't drag me into this, man." Emily dropped a bombshell. "I want to explore more. I love Jared. He's wonderful, but something's missing. Maybe we could learn from an experienced couple like you and Laura." My heart skipped a beat. Experienced? We're just older. Laura looked shocked too. This was getting pretty risque. Jared seized his moment. "Ethan, remember what we discussed?" Laura turned to me, puzzled. What's he talking about? I was trapped. How could I possibly bring up wife swapping? But before I could figure it out, Jared just came right out with it. "Actually, research suggests that couple swapping can revitalize marriages, and we'd like to explore that possibility," Jared announced. The room fell dead silent as Laura's expression turned to stone. Emily quickly jumped in. Her voice was gentle but firm. "We completely understand if this makes you uncomfortable. There's absolutely no pressure. We just thought connecting with an experienced couple like you and Ethan might help us grow together." My stomach was doing somersaults. I couldn't even look at Laura, knowing she was about to shut this down hard. But before she could speak, Emily turned those earnest eyes on me. "I'm particularly drawn to Ethan's maturity. I apologize if this seems forward, Laura, but I'm curious to experience someone with real wisdom and life experience." Her candor was stunning. Even though I tried to keep it together, my pulse was pounding. Laura's eyes bored into me from across the room. I tried to form words, stumbling over them. "I don't think that's—" But Jared pressed on. "Come on, Ethan. Couldn't we all use a little excitement in our lives?" This guy's out of his mind, I thought. Yet I couldn't stop my mind from wandering to Emily, barely old enough to drink. Something long dormant stirred inside me. The evening wrapped up with Laura's diplomatic, "We need time to process this." Emily and Jared were gracious, saying, "Take all the time you need. We just wanted to put it out there," before heading home. Once they left, Laura practically melted into the couch, completely drained. I settled next to her, managing a weak laugh. "Well, that was something else." Laura turned to me, her eyes searching. "Tell me honestly, are you actually considering this?" I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. I mean, objectively speaking, it's crazy. But they seem really committed to the idea. Laura went quiet for a moment before dropping her own bombshell. "Emily's beautiful and so young. I saw how you looked at her." I scrambled to defend myself. "That's not, I mean," but I had to admit, whether I found her attractive was separate from whether we should actually do this. This kind of thing could destroy everything we have. Yet Laura's reaction wasn't entirely negative. I suspected she found Jared's youthful energy appealing too. After years of comfortable routine, maybe she was also intrigued by the possibility of something new and different. That night, despite hours of discussion, we couldn't come to a decision and agreed to sleep on it. But as days passed, both Laura and I found ourselves entertaining forbidden fantasies. Me with vibrant, young Emily, Laura with energetic Jared. The mere thought of it sent shivers down my spine. Surprisingly, these taboo daydreams had an unexpected effect on our own intimacy. Though our passion had cooled over the years, that night we made love with an intensity we hadn't experienced in ages. The forbidden nature of our thoughts had somehow reignited our own spark. We explored each other with renewed passion, as if discovering one another for the first time. Then came Jared's text. We'd like to establish some ground rules. When can we meet to discuss? I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Formal rules for couple swapping? But when Laura saw the message, she surprised me. Maybe we should hear them out. I have some thoughts too. I never thought I'd hear that from my wife. So we arranged another meeting. That Sunday afternoon, they arrived with desserts in hand. Over coffee, Jared pulled out what looked like a carefully prepared document, an actual list of guidelines for couple swapping. It covered everything: mutual consent requirements, immediate stop signals if anyone felt uncomfortable, strict confidentiality, treating everyone with respect, working on improving our marriages rather than emotional attachment. The whole thing seemed ridiculous, yet I was oddly impressed by their thoroughness. Emily spoke up, her voice soft but determined. I want to learn from Ethan's experience. And Laura, you might find Jared's youthful perspective refreshing. It was bold, but there was something compelling about her sincerity. Though Laura remained nervous throughout, she finally conceded, okay, I'm terrified and have no idea what to expect, but we could try it once. I agreed, adding, right, just one time. If anything feels wrong, we stop immediately. Looking back now, we should have known that just once was never going to stick. And that's how Laura and I found ourselves agreeing to meet Jared and Emily for that fateful night. With our child away at soccer camp, we arranged to meet at our house for the exchange. Having it take place in our own home stirred up a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. That first night was unlike anything I could have imagined. In the bedroom with Emily, I discovered someone who carried herself with surprising poise for her 21 years, yet her smooth skin radiated youthful vitality. At 47, I felt every year of our age gap, yet I was overcome by sensations I hadn't experienced in ages. Though I knew I should maintain more self-control, Emily's enthusiastic responses to my advances and her whispered words, "You're so experienced. I've never done anything like this before," sent shivers down my spine. Emily handled everything with a gentle grace that belied her nervousness. When I caressed her firm, supple breasts, Emily's soft moans only intensified my desire. Her body was like a masterpiece of youth and beauty, responding eagerly to every touch. I murmured sweet nothings against her ear, amazed at how her whole body quivered at even the smallest gesture. When I gently traced the sensitive spot behind her ear, her gasps grew louder. My experienced touch seemed to awaken something deep within her. Our passionate kisses were intoxicating as Emily arched her back, lifting her hips in response. Lost in the heat of the moment, I deepened our connection, drawing a cry of pleasure from her as she tangled her fingers in my hair. My body remembered sensations I thought long forgotten. Emily's soft skin and intoxicating scent overwhelmed my senses, while her every movement ignited new flames of desire. The firmness of her young body against mine sent me into a state of pure ecstasy, as if time itself had stopped. I couldn't fathom what issues such a captivating woman could be having in her marriage with Jared. In that moment, I was simply lost in our shared passion. Being with such an enchanting woman felt surreal. Through the walls, I could hear Laura and Jared's passionate encounter in the living room. The jealousy that flared up inside me mixed with other complex emotions. Though my mind occasionally wandered to what Laura might be doing, Emily's presence kept drawing me back to our shared moment. I was amazed at how such opposing feelings could exist simultaneously. By the end of that first night, I was completely drained. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's radiant smile. While I desperately wanted to know about Laura's experience, we kept those details private. But judging from her afterglow, she must have enjoyed Jared's youthful energy. We told ourselves this would strengthen our marriages, but deep down, we knew it was far more complicated. Emily clearly enjoyed our encounter as she began reaching out regularly. Please, Ethan, I want to explore more. I found myself powerless against her requests. I rationalized that no man could resist such an alluring woman's advances, and I kept going back. Laura followed a similar path with Jared. Initially, she insisted, "This is too risky. We need to stop." But she couldn't resist responding to Jared's messages and meeting him. One evening, she came home looking dazed and admitted, "Jared may be young, but he's incredibly attentive." Those words stung more than I expected. I started worrying that instead of strengthening our marriages, we might be heading toward disaster. Yet the encounters continued, and with each meeting, my feelings for Emily grew deeper, while Laura and Jared's passion seemed to intensify. Emily's personality was a fascinating contrast, bright and charming in everyday life, but bold and seductive in intimate moments, always whispering, "Just one more time, Ethan." I was completely caught up in her rhythm. We maintained the facade that we were helping the younger couple's marriage, with Laura even saying we should be setting an example, while hiding her true feelings. In reality, she seemed eager for her next encounter with Jared. Some example we were setting, despite the undercurrent of jealousy and anger we all felt, none of us could break free. What started as just once became a regular arrangement that kept dragging on. This couldn't last forever. Our child might find out, or word might get around at work. Most importantly, what would become of the genuine connection between Laura and me? The more I thought about it, the more anxiety surfaced. Yet somehow these very fears seemed to make our unconventional arrangement even more thrilling. The age gaps between us, me at 47, Laura at 46, Jared at 30, and Emily at 21, created an interesting dynamic where we were essentially trading youth for experience. The tension and attraction stemming from our generational differences added another layer of complexity to our relationships. Though I might just be another middle-aged man to Emily, I couldn't help being drawn to her. Her natural, uninhibited behavior had completely captivated me, transcending any concerns about marriage. Meanwhile, Laura seemed increasingly enchanted by Jared's youthful charm. Our marriages were clearly in need of something more, but I honestly had no idea where this was heading. While we maintained the pretense of helping the younger couple work through their issues, the truth was that we were all primarily focused on satisfying our own desires. Will this all come crashing down someday, or will this delicate balance somehow persist? I often find myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling and contemplating our situation. Each time we set up another meeting, I feel a mix of anticipation and anxiety. While part of me craves Emily, another part questions the morality of what we're doing. I wonder what emotional turmoil Laura must be experiencing. Though we don't discuss it, she must be wrestling with similar conflicts. This complicated arrangement could ultimately destroy our marriage. Yet none of us seems able to stop. I can only sigh deeply and close my eyes. I'll be seeing Emily this weekend, and my mind is already racing with possibilities. Meanwhile, Laura will likely be with Jared, losing herself in his youthful passion. The mere thought brings an involuntary smile to my face. And so our regular exchanges continue, the four of us caught in this complex web of desire and consequences.